Let's pray. Lord, we come to this space eager to hear your voice, asking that you would lead us in faith to all that you would have us hear. In Jesus' name, amen. The Moonlight Sonata at the Mayo Clinic, Nora Gallagher writes about an experience of being diagnosed with a disease called uveitis. The journey she takes and the uncovering of the diagnosis, the adjusting to a new reality. In it, she describes the experience as being in a land of Oz, a place where the usual rules just don't apply. Oz is the land of prepared food, sacred prayers, specialists, new rules. It exists outside the walls of the church. It's a place of exile. As I reflect on this week's story, I find Oz to be a very appropriate metaphor for many of the characters in the story. Not the Toto and Dorothy type of Oz, but an actual place that people sit when they're diagnosed with an illness or they go through something traumatic in their life. It's a space that separates them from the rest of the community, a place that is full of all sorts of new rules and new ways that they have to learn to exist. In our story, our characters are part of the world in their own way. Jairus, for instance. Jairus is a leader in the church. He's the kind of man who will always stay late after services, who will make sure that all of the papers and bulletins are cleared from the pew, who will reset hymnals if need be, who will check the bathrooms and make sure there's nothing wonky before leaving. He's very respected and well-liked in his community, and he knows how to function and behave in that way. But Jairus is a man in Oz because his daughter is sick, his little 12-year-old girl. So sick, in fact, that he knows that she's about to die. He's gone to the doctors. He's begged somebody to help him. He's done the ritual cleanings. He's done everything he can. And still his daughter lies on a bed. Jairus' prayers seem scarce. Jairus' rules that he's used to living by don't quite apply. He has nothing to do but sit and wait. But he hears something. He hears about a rabbi who was here a little bit ago, left, and now is coming back. And Jairus wonders about this rabbi because he knows that he can heal. He's been stirring up problems all across the area, but he also can heal. And just maybe, this rabbi will have the way out of Oz. And so in desperation for the life of his child, he finds himself at the feet of Christ, begging him to come quickly. Come quickly, my daughter is going to die. We're within moments of this death. This is his last call. Come, save my little girl. Dependent on Christ to act, every second, every moment counts. Somewhere in the crowd, there is a woman who has been bleeding for 12 years. She has been ritually unclean. She has been hurting in her own body. She has been flowing with blood. There's nothing about her life that's sinful per se. It's just that she can't quite participate in this community. Unclean as she is, if she has a husband, she can't come anywhere near him. 12 years. 12 childbearing years. Maybe she has children at home. She's probably not touched them or interacted with them much. Maybe she has a husband she's not been able to talk to. She had faith, but those prayers didn't get her very far. She had promises that when this all stopped, she'd be part of the community, but that community doesn't know what to do, and she's not part of it. Maybe she had a husband who, if she were clean and able to be with, he would tell her, honey, it's okay. Maybe he would take her to the doctors, but he can't. So she spent every last dime that she has had looking for a diagnosis, looking for a cure, and still has not found anything. She is in Oz. But she hears about this Jesus, this rabbi, this troublemaker who none of the religious leaders are quite sure they like. But she knows that he can heal. He doesn't have to see her. He doesn't have to want her to be around. Perhaps all she has to do is touch his cloak. Because there's no way he can look at her. But one little touch, will that get her out of Oz? A little girl lies at home. Her breathing is shallow. Her life is on the brink of ending. Her father has left to one more cure, one more doctor. Her mother cries with the servants and the friends outside her door. She can hear them praying. She can hear them weeping. But she is just about to leave Oz. She is just about to get out. She takes her last breath, and she is no longer in Oz. The world is full of people who live in this world of Oz. Full of people who feel that pain of separation, simple little things that shouldn't matter so much, that keep them from interacting with other people in ways that make sense. And this story is around illness and around suffering. But in our lives, there are lots of ways we end up in Oz. Illness is one of them, a big one. But there's divorce. There's being a stranger in a new land. There's losing your job. All of these things in which you are no longer functioning as a regular member of society create this world that I'm calling Oz, that I love that Nora Gallagher pinpoints. Because in Oz, the rules are different, the prayers are scarce, and you are separated. You live in your own reality, one that coexists with others, but is never quite fully there. People around us all the time are hurting. People in our own communities are hurting. At some point, perhaps all of us could say we've been in Oz. Maybe we know what it's like to be Jairus. Maybe we know what it's like to be the woman. Maybe we know that feeling of close to death. Whatever it is, we're there. And the tagline that the world, I believe, wants to give us, or sometimes I feel the church doesn't do a really good job with, the tagline that seems to keep popping up is that one little line that Jesus says to the woman, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go." Your faith has healed you. As though that magic thing will make it all go away. As though with magic, with this magic understanding of feeling and believing, faith will make it all better. And we will be healed, and we will be done with our infirmities, and our separation will be totally done. And we take it and we lift it up, and we say, just have enough faith. Daughter, brother, sister, friend, have enough faith. God's got you. God's got this under control. And we use it in our everyday culture. I think we sometimes use it in a way that God never intended, because we use it to get a little bit better and feel a little bit better and make it easy on us. Because I don't know how to lead you out of Oz. But hey, have faith and you'll get there. But notice in this story, and this is the genius and the beauty of Mark. The genius and beauty of this writer is that he doesn't boil it down to one little catchphrase, daughter, your faith has healed you, but layers in there all sorts of different interactions. Jairus comes to Jesus and says, heals my little girl. No healing comes. Death only. The people who stand out beside the door, weeping and wailing, mock Christ. What do you mean she's only asleep? We saw her die. They don't believe. And yet, the little 12-year-old girl lives. The woman reaches out her hand, believing that physical healing might be the only thing she can get in this moment. And God restores more than just that. See, the way God reaches into our lives and the meaning of healing in our lives and the way God takes our faith and addresses it is so much bigger and so much wider and so much greater than we will ever know or understand. Because when God says, I'm here for you, I'm here to heal you, there are all sorts of things in our lives that need healing. If you were reading the story and you say your faith has healed you, then you would see the story as the woman's physical ailment was all that it was broken. But her separation from the community and her economic devastation were as equally problematic in her life. And when Jesus turned and said, daughter, he was restoring to her something she may not have even realized she could have restored. Community, family, love. And the people who sat outside of the little girl's room feared death. In fact, that's in the scripture that they feared. And they sat there and they wept and they wailed and they mocked Christ because they didn't really believe. But he said to the little girl, rise up. Get up, little girl. And she came back from the dead. Whoever would have thought that that could happen, but God did that. And probably my favorite moment of healing is the one that could easily get overlooked. Because when Jesus stopped in the middle of the crowd to say, who touched my cloak? And the disciples said, there are so many people here. What do you mean, who touched my cloak? What they're really saying is, you have something urgent to do, Christ. Keep going. Imagine what Jairus must have felt. But we don't see him get angry in the story. We don't see him weep and wail. We imagine that he's anxious, that he's stressed, that he's panicked. But we don't see that. Jairus stops. And in that moment, when Jesus stops and Jairus stops, and puts his own urgency aside for this woman, to me, that's the biggest healing moment of all. It's a healing moment that came from that one action, an action of Christ and an action of another person. Because Jairus stopped long enough for God to restore her dignity, to restore her to the community, to restore her in more ways than her own physical body. And when Christ says your faith has healed you, he's not just saying physically your body is healed. He is saying daughter, child, beloved, things she has not heard for a very long time. You are healed. And Jairus' action of stopping in that moment, of choosing to let his daughter die so that she can be renewed, is of deep, deep consequence. To me, this is what is meant by being a community of faith. To me, this is what we're supposed to do. To me, this is what the story is about. It's more than just Jesus reached out his hands or some woman came and touched him and her physical body was healing. To me, it's about the people who sit in Oz who aren't sure how to get out, who aren't really sure what to do, who aren't sure what to say and how to interact, and about how Christ and the people around her reach in, and they make sure that that person is not alone. This has a really specific meaning in my life. As I was telling you during the children's message, being able to eat the bread with the community of faith has been deeply healing. I don't think I ever realized quite how much I felt separated until that day when the plate was passed and I didn't have to put my hands up and let it kind of jump over me. I could reach into the same plate, accidentally touch hands with somebody, and eat the bread. The community of God, when it is at its best, is one that restores people from Oz into this world. One that looks and says, you are more important to me than the illness that you carry. You are more important to me than the brokenness that you feel. You are more important to me than my own comfort. We love you. We want you. Come be with us. When God puts somebody in our life who we can bring into the community of faith, the best thing we can do is say, yeah, all of you, all that you are, come be with us. And when they can't make it to us, the second best thing we can do is go to them. So let's join one another in the land of Oz. Amen.